My name is Dawon Dicks, again from Bridgeport, Connecticut. Set your feet, good, but put some zip on it now.
When I think about mentoring kids, working out, training, football,
Why are we sitting on the floor?
I found that one of the biggest things I end up asking a kid is what their goals are, how far they want to go, what's getting in the way. And specifically about weight training, you got to be able to do something that is hard, that you know is going to be hard, and then still decide to have some level of action behind it.
Equality and Black lives really matter.
Drive, good.
When you don't act, kids can talk about their feelings till they're blue in the face, but if you're not willing to act, to me it only means that you don't really want what you say you do, and that's okay, because maybe it means that you, that athlete, really wants something else, and that's what it really comes down to.
So I think the biggest things for me coming up in Bridgeport, I think a lot of other kids coming through Bridgeport is just really trying to figure out, lack of better wording, kind of which side of the tracks you want to be on. For me, it was almost a natural gravitation towards it, and somewhere in there, I kind of knew I wanted to be good at it. One of my older cousins, Craig Dicks, he went to West Haven High School. So when I was 7th, 8th grade, he was a junior, senior in high school. So typically, I kind of wanted some of that same, attention myself. So as I got better and got a stronger connection to it, it was, making that decision that, I want to be great at it. So I went to Notre Catholic High School, played football there, did pretty well for myself, ran track, ended up having about 25 or so scholarship offers, ended up going to Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., and pretty much started my journey towards attempting to be a professional athlete, but more so just trying to set myself up for the rest of my life.
Dawon is authentic. Dawon has passion and commitment to everything he does.
First time I met Dawon,
Then once we get the team installed, then we'll worry about that.
I knew he was about his business. That's someone you don't play with, someone you're not supposed to play with. And it's time to work at that point. Every day was work, work, work.
What's up, Naya?
You got one goal, one idea, unison, and just go at it full speed 100%. So there's really no excuse at the end of the day. You go to school, do your job, and then go home, do the same thing. But he was still a great guy. He always loved to have fun and joke around and laugh and smile and stuff. So.
Well, unfortunately for me, just kind of career-wise as a running back, I wasn't even to my own expectations, wasn't really getting the job done as be it 1,000-yard back, 15, 16, 17 yards, touchdowns a season. So before I graduated, I still was invited to, a tryout with the Washington Redskins. At the end of the tryout, and knowing that they weren't kind of hovering over me to kind of see what my plans were, that was, kind of the end of football. And, I didn't really think about myself in that regard anymore as Dawon Dicks. I'm a football player. I'm going to the NFL. It was just Dawon Dicks. Football is no longer on the table, and now, what am I going to do? So I became a strength and conditioning coach for Georgetown. Liked it a lot. I kind of loved this idea of helping guys like myself in a capacity that I felt very, very confident in. Ended up doing the same thing, lo and behold, for the Washington Redskins, which was awesome. Personally, I didn't have that sense of meaning. That sense of purpose, that sense of, I'm really, really excited about this, and I know, it's making a big impact. 2 or 3 years into me being a full-time strength and conditioning coach, who became a friend. He was a professor for me at Georgetown, Father Raymond Kemp. I was a TA for him. So he kind of was like, hey, we got this this job at Washington Jesuit Academy. You could be a teacher, not really paying a whole lot, but I think you should do it. I went down there, I interviewed 900 Varnum Street with the principal. I think I felt in my heart it was a step in the right direction. I just still couldn't see myself as being a teacher, but I was willing to kind of step into, that realm to at least figure it out. I think that first day or two, I'm up there, hey, my name is Dawon Dicks. I went to Georgetown, I played football, I got my jersey up in the room, so I'm feeling pretty proud of myself from that regard. I have a young sixth grader raised. I remember the moment as if it just happened. So I'm kind of talking, got my shirt and tie on. I think I look the part, I think I sound the part. He goes, why do you talk like that? So at first I'm kind of like thrown off, and I'm still in front of the kids, so I gotta figure out how I'm gonna respond. And I'm like, well, what do you mean, Tyrell? And he goes, kind of looking around a little bit. Why are you talking white? That moment what really resonated with me was figuring out how I'm gonna be a teacher to them. So it's not so much just looking the part or playing the part, but wanting to be impactful.
You go up, you go to work, but to get through the day, it's mostly mental, and I think that's what mostly he taught me going to school and, going through school is that, if you could get through the hard stuff mentally, physically you should be all right too as well.
So this is into my fourth year at Washington Jesuit Academy, teaching on every grade level. Towards the end of the school year, get a call from the athletic director at the time at the school, and he's like, hey, just kind of, literally a random call, and along the lines of, possibly coming back to Notre Dame, being the head football coach, teaching in the building, and kind of going from there. So at first I said no, because my thinking is I've never been a head football coach, never even been a high school coach at all. Haven't been a teacher at the high school level either. So I think I thought more about the questions, more about things I hadn't done, more than what I felt my kind of presence, would be, especially given my track record, there as a student athlete. At this point, I hadn't been back, living in Connecticut for almost 12 years. They ended up reaching out to me again when I got wind that the head coach then would be stepping down, and it was almost certain that I would be, filling in as a head coach and then a world history and PE teacher, which, I was still pretty pumped about. I think initially just the nostalgia of it. I still had, at the time, faculty members in a school that taught me. Father Bill, rest in peace, certainly one of them. I think he had already transitioned to being president of the school at that time. I felt the school, culture was a bit different. A lot has changed in, 11, 12, 13 years. Being a head coach, coaching up the coaches, coaching up the players, building the culture. So when you're going week in and week out, when you're losing as a varsity team, but then you're winning, as a JV team and a freshman team, the thought is, hey, we don't have it at that varsity level, but we're building ourselves up into, a varsity program. I 100%, was believing that the young guys who literally came in with me, me being a head coach, would be the same ones that, would take this program into, into the next step. So I'm emailing, administration, kind of, hey, want to come in, want to talk, budget, football budget for the coming year. I'm thinking this as far as the weight room. I'm thinking this, going to this clinic with the staff, going to that clinic. So administration, finally reaches out to me. And instead of me going into the office thinking that, I'm going to talk about the budget, we go in there and, 3, 4, 5 minutes into the conversation, what felt like a lifetime, the same school that, I came to love, came to admire. A lot of people in the building who helped me get to where I was, as a professional, they end up telling me that, they're gonna go in another direction, related to the football program. Man, yeah, I ended up crying. I ended up, just breaking down, and as a boy, as a man, as a teenager, as a football player, it's be tough and you don't cry and you get back up, and I was just hurt. So now I fast forward a few years, kind of like, well, what is this about? I've done the right things, I've made the sacrifices, I felt I put the best foot forward, I've tried, I didn't quit. I didn't really feel like I deserved that. I felt like what I did as a 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grader, meant something. I thought, being an all-state player meant something. I thought going to a high-level school, meant something. I thought going to a school doing well there, being inducted into the Hall of Fame, at the same school meant something. So now I'm in a place where it means nothing. Newspapers were calling, even though parents were asking a number of questions, even though people in my own family was asking a lot of questions, and well, you should sue, and you should do this, and I kind of felt in my heart that I just wanted to finish the job, and then, figure out the next steps, when I got there. I think after that, it was, I hadn't really, similar to college, hadn't really figured out, what that big plan was. So with teaching, it was like, hey, I like it, I love it, let me get good at it. How do I make a career out of it? So my girlfriend at the time, we were expecting, our first child. So keeping my own, personal life in mind, the decision was either I'm going to move to Massachusetts, certainly to help raise my first child, or, I'm going to stay in Connecticut and, hope she, makes the venture to Connecticut. So for me, it was very simple of knowing that, I'm going to another state. I don't really have anything set in stone, but, I'm going there for the right reasons, to be, part of my child's life, and then to figure out, the work piece, and really go from there. I was seen by, one lady who was doing a site visit, so she sees me running a program at the middle school. More or less, she's like, hey, I think he'll be great for this elementary school after-school program at one of the middle schools full-time. So on my end, it's literally almost history repeating itself. So I'm doing years and years ago, going into my senior year of college, I end up doing this summer school teaching program. Now, fast forward a bunch of years, now I'm gonna then roll into doing an after-school program at a school right there in Lawrence.
He's been making an impact. Dawon's commitment to developing his student athletes go far beyond the field, the training room, the school setting. I'm not a coach. I'm not a trainer, but from a coaching point, I think ideally he's hired to do the obvious, to help kids get better.
Because that's what people are going to be doing related to scholarships to high school or scholarships to college. And that's the bigger objective. So thank you all for coming on out.
Get bigger, faster, stronger. But I think his true main objective is to build character. He wants to help them overcome challenges. He truly cares about them.
I felt I put so much time into sports, working out, running, sprinting, the sacrifices, getting better, all of these, how do I say, tangibles related to being a good football player. Even basketball at one point, or track at one point, but it's kind of like, what did that really do for me? If I had a classroom of, say, 20 kids, and only 5 of them play football, what about the other 75%? Whose struggles, goals, aspirations probably may have nothing to do with the field. So I kind of felt that the further I was going into that sports world, that I would then make my reach a lot smaller. And certainly not wanting to continue this story that, to be super honest with you, that, blacks or minorities, the only thing we could have going for us is sports. I remember when I was younger, I think, Biggie Smalls, Notorious B.I.G. album, Ready to Die came out, and I think I was in the 8th grade, and one line he said was, either you sling and crack rock or you got a wicked jump shot. And that always stuck with me because that was kind of like what a lot of us believe. Either you're going to be out in the streets hustling, or you're just very, very good at sports, and that's going to kind of pave your way. So I'm like, well, what about the kids who are just good at school or good at art, or they're trying to figure out what they're good at? So that, that experience of playing college football, all these scholarships, having a decent collegiate career, trying out for the Washington Redskins, but then not making it, I kind of felt like I didn't have anything to stand on. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know who I wanted to become. I really was lost. So when I thought about all of that, I then thought I had a lot more to share with a person, athlete, student athlete. Had to share a lot more than just talking about, a sport.
I don't think the dynamic of his relationships are ever coach to athlete. He models hard work, commitment, passion, dedication, grit, and he focuses more so on creating an impact that will last a lifetime.
Going all the way back to my, Pop Warner days in Bridgeport, that was one of the biggest things I appreciated. A lot of my coaches, junior peewees, junior midgets, and what have you, who just were patient enough just to kind of see me through. So personally, I know what it feels like to be successful, especially in knowing that, for some of them years in there, I was unsuccessful, and just what that feeling was of just accomplishment. Then you get a little trophy for it. Then you kind of, start building up your status as a player. So when, I could meet, with kids now, good. Now, push it. And see where they were at the beginning, and seeing where they are now. Or just them saying, hey, thank you, coach, for helping me, make a travel team. Thank you for helping me to get a little faster, to catch a little better. It actually feels like, I'm doing some good, but more, specifically for their own, life. So I think that's a pretty special thing to be able to, empower, another person, especially a young person, just to see beyond where they may be, in those present moments. I think that's pretty special.
Times where, couldn't breathe, couldn't see straight, and we're the only two in there working at sometimes, and it's just like, it's times that I could never, they're priceless. Like, it made me the man who I am today, honestly.
I think about, and I was a senior at Notre Dame, the first time we kind of, quote unquote, had a strength and conditioning coach. His name was Coach Saricchio, nickname was Coach Sick. And for very good reasons. And, I wanted them kids that I wanted to get the extra training. I wanted to get the extra sessions in. So, on certain weekends after the season, he would invite me up to his place in Stanford. And, when I would get done with them workouts, I literally felt like I couldn't walk, I couldn't breathe. I didn't know if I had to poop or if I had to throw up or some crazy combination. And, he barely charged me anything for it. And I know I couldn't afford it if he would have charged more. So I always kept that experience with me because I was one of the kids who wanted to be great. I wanted to work hard, but at the end of the day, I didn't necessarily have the resources to be able to literally afford it.
He would just give us, pointers and tips to what to expect. And hearing these things sometimes, some were good, some were bad. And, at the end of the day, it's college. And as a young kid being 17, 18, I couldn't fathom and understand certain things. And I was just like, I can't see that happening. And lo and behold, by the second, third year of college, probably even by the first year, all those things happened. And I was like wow, that's crazy, So it kind of prepared me mentally, I won't say me, but us mentally for, the big boy world. Because honestly, once you go to college, there's no excuses. There's a lot of liabilities. There are assets to gain as well, but at the end of the day, you still got to be careful. and do your job, come home, go to class, and have fun in between. But there's still one job that has to be done is work.
Here at Northeast Metro Tech High School, vocational school in Wakefield, Massachusetts. So storyline here, I started just in working with the football team. That was kind of my avenue in. My first year working with them just in the weight room, they ended up going to championship game. They ended up winning. The coach more or less, said in some respects that he felt that my strength and conditioning piece, motivation, had some, extension on them winning, which was great. They brought me in to do a mediation. I didn't even know what mediation meant at the time. Just talking to them, it came to be about culture building and sportsmanship and being a team and being a leader. All the things I hadn't really brushed in a very tangible way. I always thought of sports doing those things naturally, but never really had to formulate it into a conversation with young adults, and then make it so where there were takeaways that they can use to then help them be better, as a student athlete and better as a team. Coming to this last summer, superintendent reached out to me related to a diversity position. So to be in a school where it is predominantly not like, myself, I feel it's more of a duty to, help educate the staff, help educate the kids, and be not so much a voice of reason or telling people what to personally do, but more so how we can be better in serving our kids. Because I don't really think we're having some of these harder conversations, with kids about how we're supposed to talk to one another, and maybe even from an empathy standpoint, what we should really keep in mind when we are, having moments with kids who may not be like us or who may not be from where we're from.
And a short time ago, we spoke with one of them. Here's what he had to say.
Just to show support. My family's here with me. They've never done this before, so they need to understand the power that they have and the power with the people. So we got to make it known that equality and Black lives really matters.
He shares his work calendar so that I can plan my days accordingly. He's intentional about making time for us. With full transparency, it would be nice to have him home more often, but we all in this home understand what his work entails and appreciate his sacrifices.
But I think that the biggest level for me has just been home. My soon-to-be wife, May 16th of this year. Our children, we got 4 of them. At least the little one is a monster. I'll say that, but it allows me to impact, other people's lives, or at least try to influence other people's lives, while then, trying to hold down, home as well.
Take your read here. Good, don't get long with it, Miles. Make sure we're tighter on that slant. Come on,
so
champ.
What I have come to know is that, none of us can do it, by ourselves. It's easy for me to say, yeah, have grit and don't give up.
So who's ever running the post, they got to know that they got to get beyond that guy.
And set a goal and be your best self and all these other things. But the reality is, more and more kids are coming into life and coming into hard times without any support. So when I think about what I've tried to do over the years, I can try to motivate and inspire all I want. But if I'm not on a basic level just showing a level of support, then, what am I really doing?